Hey guys, welcome back to my next episode in the ALiVE tutorial series. I said I started doing these because there's some videos that are good, that they're a little bit dated, and I don't think they do a good job of explaining kind of some of the mechanics behind ALiVE that I think is important to understand in order to use it properly. So you can see down here, I really don't have any mods loaded. I just have ALiVE and CVA because CVA is required by ALiVE. So let's just open up Stratus. And I'm going to show you everything that you need to do in order to set up a basic ALiVE scenario and explain kind of some of the mechanics as I understand them behind it. So this is Stratus. We all know Stratus. Over here on the right side, we have all of our ALiVE modules, right? We've got our required module, we've got our ALiVE data module, the ORBAT creator, all this stuff. What does all this stuff do? I'm going to go through step by step and show you. So the two that we need, no matter what we do, if we're going to run ALiVE, is ALiVE parenthetical required, which, spoiler alert, is required. And you don't really have to worry about messing with too many options in here just yet. There's really nothing that you have to do right off the bat to change in there. So then we're going to go to our virtual AI system. Put that right there. So it doesn't matter where you put these. It does not matter. It's entirely up to you. So we go into the virtual AI system, enable debug. We don't have to worry about that just yet. That's, when you get a little more advanced mission making. Persistence. So if you're planning on hosting your ALiVE scenario on a dedicated server or anticipating more than one play session, probably want to have persistence on. This will feed into the ALiVE data module and War Room, and I'll talk about that in another episode. Synchronization options. That's kind of an advanced topic, but I'll shoot over it real quick. So you've got two options in synchronization. Only virtualize synced units, virtualize all editor placed units except synced units. So what this does is, instead of having ALiVE itself spawn your guys, let's go into a group here, doesn't matter, assault squad. Okay, boom. So if you started the mission right now, these guys would not be controlled by the ALiVE AI. They would do their own thing, which you may want. You may want to have specific scripted events that you don't want the ALiVE AI to take over and redirect your troops somewhere else. So there's pros and cons with it. It's entirely up to you as the mission maker what you want to do. So all we have to do is take our squad leader here. We would right click, go to connect, sync to, and we're going to sync just the squad leader, not the whole squad, to the virtual AI system. Boom. Now they're going to get virtualized. And assuming that you have that faction controlled by an AI commander, which I will explain shortly, these guys will be read by ALiVE, by the AI, and they'll be directed to attack objectives and defend and do all sorts of cool stuff. Spawn radius. So your spawn radius is how close you will have to be to a virtualized unit in order to see it, for it to spawn into the world. And just in case you don't understand the basic concept of ALiVE, what it does is you could fill up this map with 1,000 tanks, right? And you could spawn down here, boom, and you'd have 1,000 tanks sitting up here on the top of the island roaming around, and you'd have a fairly negligible performance because they're not spawned into the world. And the physics doesn't have to actively figure out what it's colliding with and exploding, and that's the beauty of it. You can have 10 different battles going on, but if you're only close enough to one, those are the units that'll spawn, and it really saves on performance and gives you a lot of ability as far as making missions and scenarios and building stories. So planes and UAVs, this is zeroed out. For planes and UAVs. It's up to you if you want to change this. If you're, if it's near a mission, obviously you're going to want to. Okay, active limiter. Sets the max number of virtualized AI groups to spawn at any one time. Now, my understanding, virtualized AI groups, okay? So, if you don't want to destroy your performance, 144 is probably okay. So this machine that I'm doing this on, it's a Ryzen 2700X with a 2080 Ti, and it's a pretty sporty little system. But even virtualized units, if you spawn too many, if you kind of just mass spawn 300 different groups, you're still going to have a performance hit. So this is a good number. You can even lower it if you want to. Okay, virtual unit speed. This is important to me, at least, because it can really control how quickly the action progresses or how quickly it initiates. So you can leave it as none, and the units will proceed at the normal speed. Depending on what I'm doing, a lot of times I'll bump it up to 125. So that way, when they're virtualized, if you're over here and you're defending the communal firing range, and you've got a battalion worth of guys over here, and they need to figure out how to make their way over here, it might take a while. So if you bump up that speed a little bit, they're going to get a little bit quicker. Virtual combat speed, I usually leave this one alone. Let's just say that, you want them to accelerate through objectives for whatever reason. So when they're virtualized, when they're not spawned into the world, that's what that's going to do. It's going to move them faster, and they're going to end up fighting and completing combat faster. Pathfinding. This is set experimental for a while since it came out. I always turn it on. I think the Pathfinding AI actually does a really good job of figuring out where it wants to go. Infantry sea transport. Not really going to need it on this map. If you're on a map like Malden, and you need units to cross back and forth on the ocean, turn it on. It's hit and miss. I haven't really seen any major bugs with it. It tends to work out pretty well, and I'm fairly sure that if you check yes on this, the faction that you're using needs to have some type of amphibious transport boat, like a Zodiac or a Christ, what do you call them? Yeah, salt boat, speedboats. What else? That's all we have, really? I guess they're all modded, huh? Interesting. Well, fine then. All right. Well, if you have oh, here's some other ones. Motorboats. Those are civs, though. I imagine it's going to work better if you have mods like Cup or RHS in there. I could be wrong about this, and I'm sure someone will comment and tell me if I'm wrong. But it's up to you if you want to do it. So that's what we need. Now, let me explain the most important part of this and how it works. Okay. I'm going too far ahead again. All right. So, military placement. This is kind of, to me at least, the core of ALiVE. Now, it's important to note that any map that you want to run ALiVE on needs to be indexed. So otherwise, it's not going to work right. So we're going to drop a civilian objective marker here. We're going to drop a military objective marker here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on debugging for both, because I'm going to show you what it looks like. So we're going to leave the TAO and blacklit. I'll go back to explaining all that in just a second. So I'm going to turn off all the filters. I don't need to drop any units yet. Take out the faction. If you don't take out the faction, you can or put zeros into the spawn overrides if you're doing objectives only. Sometimes you'll still get spawns. I've seen it's a weird little quirky thing, and it's probably just my OCD. But this is, if I'm doing objectives only, I do this just because it's one of my things. Okay, so now we have our objectives. So, and this is where a lot of people get lost and confused. So take notes. I'm just going to drop my guy here. Make sure he's not spawned 50 feet in the air, because I do that too. Okay. So my civilian objective marker. There's no TAOR, no blacklist. So it's going to search the entire map for civilian objectives. No filters, no nothing. And we're going to see it on the map when we spawn in. Same with military objectives. No TAOR, no blacklist, no filters. So everything on this map is going to populate as an objective. And I will show you what that means and how you can utilize it. What's the difference between a military and a civilian objective? Well, I'll show you that too. You know what? Let me drop a Zeus in here too so I can fly around. Okay. So let's jump in and go see. So just a basic level, military objectives, exactly what you think it would be. Like Mike 26 will be a military objective. Camp Rocane will be a military objective. Civilian objectives, exactly what you think they are. Gurn will be a civilian objective. Ajay Marina will be a civilian objective. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. So let's jump in and go see what it looks like. Okay. So you can see here, it's now populated, and it's showing us all of the available objectives that are indexed on this map. You'll see colors, numbers, all sorts of stuff. What does all this stuff mean? Let's take a look. Mike 26. Okay. So we see here the red dots. These are all objective spawn points. Oh, I can teleport, duh. Oops, well, that was almost bad. Spawn into a wall. Alright, this is a military objective. It's also hitting as a civilian objective. You'll see some overlap sometimes. It depends on the types of buildings that are present, the index, and that someone else can probably explain that one a little bit better than I can. So if we turn the objectives only to place units, we're going to get units at all of these points, civilian and military. Right, and you got to be a little careful because sometimes, like on this one, you'll see the command post here, military building. No, not that. Is it just on the pad? I guess so. That's interesting. So if you spawned both a civilian and military objective here and placed units, you'd be double tapping it. So, you know, if you say, okay, I want 10 units on the civilian and 10 units on the military objective, you're going to see a lot of exploding rockets, red guard tanks flying across the map because they're all trying to spawn in the same place and they all start blowing up, which looks really cool, but it gets kind of annoying when you first start a mission. So that's how that works. And the analogy that I've used is the objective placement markers are like scouts. And you tell them what objectives you want them to find. They go out and find the objectives, and they know where they are. But it doesn't do the AI commanders any good until you start syncing stuff, which we'll do next. But I want you to understand the premise of how this works. So you could, you know, just do this if you wanted to. Just to see. On any index map, drop a civilian, a military objective marker, turn on debugging, zero everything out, objectives only, go in. And if you want to be really sporty, what you can do too is screenshot this, just, you know, alt print screen, throw it into Paint or whatever program you want, and use it as a reference. So let's go back to Eden. All right. So now we know where our objectives are, right? Well, we know anyway, because this is a fairly small map. So what we're going to do is let's start a fight. Let's see here. Let's do, yeah, Camp Rogane's a good one. All right. So we're going to make TAORs, Tactical Areas of Responsibility. And this is the second part where people get all screwed up, and it took me weeks to figure out how to do it right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a box over Camp Rogane. Okay? We're going to call that blue 4-1. Give it a blue 4 color. Great. And we're going to draw one over Marina. We're going to call that Op 4-1. Now, we know that Rogane is a military objective. So let's drop placement marker there. We're going to take our civilian objective marker, drop it on the Shock City, where the civilians are. Well, not right now, but you get the idea. Okay, we have our markers down. So let's go to this one. TAO marker. The TAO marker name is going to be the same as what you just drew. Blue 4-1. Not going to filter. Now we're going to place units. Yeah, we'll tone it down a little bit. Now, what does all this other stuff do? Force size. I'm going to give you a caveat with the force size. The numbers, again, someone can probably explain this better than I can. I don't see a direct correlation between the numbers that are in here and what actually spawns. The number of groups that ALiVE will spawn will vary. So you can put 100 in there, you're not going to get 100 troops or 100 units, at least in the scenarios that I've played with, that I've created. But we'll put 100 in there just to see what happens, and I'll show you. Force weighting. So you can do random, armored, mechanized, armored, light infantry, spec ops. What this will do is it will, just like it sounds, it'll prioritize certain types of units. So if you want a bunch of APCs and a handful of other stuff, we'll do mechanized. If you want a tank force, then we'll do armored. Now, this does mean that it's not going to spawn any other type of unit. It's just going to give you more of this unit and less of the others. On the ALiVE wiki, which I'll link in the description, there's a pretty good explanation of the scale that the ALiVE AI uses to spawn units and compositions. We'll just do random this time. Readiness. So readiness, I've had mixed results with. What readiness does is it's the number of units that are out and about versus, we'll say, in garrison, because that's the best way to explain it. So if we set that to 25%, you'll see a lot of these units hanging out in the buildings, generally not doing a whole lot, right? So we'll just set it on 100% for now. Now the overrides. Let's say that you have, you want to make an armored force, but you don't want any light infantry, any foot bubbles. So we're going to put 0 of that. This doesn't mean it's not going to spawn any infantry. It just means it's not going to spawn any infantry groups. What do we mean by that? So we go into our blue force, our vanilla NATO group. It's the same concept for any munch you might be running. These are the infantry groups we have. Weapon squad, sentry, rifle squad. None of these will spawn if we tell it not to. Mechanized, special forces, support, right? So if we tell it, don't spawn any infantry units, we're not going to get any of these. We'll get mechanized, motorized, armored, SOF guys. We'll get all that other stuff. So we'll just leave it out for now. Create HQs. Okay, again, someone can probably explain this better than I can, but I'll do my best. HQs are particularly relevant if you're going to be using any type of logistics module, which we will explain in a minute. So we'll leave the HQ on. We don't need a filled HQ if we're going to create one here. So what create HQ is going to do, it's going to look for any suitable headquarters building within its area. If there was no TAOR, it's going to look for on the whole map. But since we typed in blue 4-1, we've taken our placement module, our scout, and we've said, find all the objectives you can, but only in this box, and put units there. So it's going to do the same thing, but it's also going to look for an HQ. Place area units, I always tell it no, and I'll do area units a little bit later in a different episode. Place supplies, it's up to you if you want to do that or not. Sure, why not? Ambient guards. It's up to you if you want to include ambient guards. I would normally do low. Default is high. All it's going to do is it's going to populate the surrounding area with random squads of whatever, right, in your faction, in part of the spawn. I as far as I know, it does not count against your total unit count. I could be mistaken about that. I don't think it does, though. So if we go in right now, So we've dropped our objective. We're going to spawn an HQ. We're going to spawn some units. It's great. They still haven't done anything. Well, they're not going to do anything because they don't have an AI commander. Here's what's interesting and cool about ALiVE, and I think this is part 3 where people get really screwed up. You don't have to sync anything right now. You should add an AI commander. Turn on the debug. Okay. I think I went too far again. Military AI commander. It's the next module we're going to add. Control type. We've got invasion, occupation, and asymmetric. You're primarily probably going to use invasion and occupation. Invasion is more offensive-based. Occupation is more defensive-based. The only real difference between the two is the number of units, of groups, that the AI commander is going to prioritize for attacking or for defense. So if you set it for occupation, it's going to be less inclined to allocate more units to take objectives, and it's going to allocate more units to hold objectives. So this is, probably a little more ideal for like an invasion occupation type scenario where, you're a force coming in to liberate a particular area. Keep that on occupation. Your force would be invasion. We want them to fight, so we'll put it on invasion. Installations and roadblocks, you don't have to worry about this unless we're talking about an asymmetric AI commander, which we're not at the moment. So we'll do a separate episode on asymmetric and set up an insurgency. So don't worry about the installations and roadblocks in this one. It doesn't matter. Reinforcements. What do reinforcements do? So in order for reinforcements to work, you need to have a military logistics module, which I will also explain. So you can see here it says 90, 75%, 50% are the correlated percentages for reinforcements between these 3 options. So at constant, if a particular group has lost 90%, or I should say 10% of its forces, it's going to start getting reinforcements. Packets at 50 and seldom, packets 75 and seldom at 50. So if you click into seldom, then you're going to get a big chunk of reinforcements at one time. Packets will be a bit, a little bit less, but more frequently, and this will be small groups of reinforcements constantly streaming in. And it'll look a little weird sometimes if they don't, if the AI doesn't have a good supply line set up. You'll see, BMPs parachuting in from out of nowhere in the sky. It's one of those quirky little things. Intel. So for Intel, what this will do is if you do seldom, I don't know what the percentages are. Often they'll drop little Intel packets, AIs you kill or that are killed. Will drop little AI packets. You pick them up, and it'll give you map intel about if they have objectives or installations nearby. I don't think I haven't seen it work yet or populate anything. If it's just like an invasion versus occupation AI, I've seen it for insurgency. So if you've got insurgents or asymmetric, if you're out killing insurgents, they'll drop intel packets. It might work on the regular. I'm sure someone will comment and tell me if it does. I haven't seen it yet. Oops, where am I? Oh, commander, sorry. Faction. So you can set the default faction in here, or you can override factions. If you override factions, it's going to that's primarily going to be for your mods, like your cut mods, RHS, any third party like that. So just for example, if you wanted to spawn a pick RHS. So that would then take control of all the RHS U.S. Army Desert units that were spawned in or that you virtualized. So we'll just leave it on NATO for now. If you really want to be, super cool and look like a bitch encoder, you can override it and type in BlueF, which is literally the same thing as leaving NATO selected. It doesn't matter. I use it. I use the default vanilla faction so infrequently that it's just habit now to just nut it out and write it in by hand. So what we've done, I haven't. Let me set this one up real quick. So we're gonna add our civilian objective here. Up for 1. Okay, do not filter. Make it a company, same size. Take the ambient guards. Regular CSAT is fine. Okay, sea patrols. If your faction has boats, whether that be speedboats or you've done fancy stuff in the Orbitron and added, patrol boats or frigates or an Arleigh class destroyer, it'll spawn those and have them patrol around in the water, which is kind of cool. So we'll just throw it on just because. And you have different options here as far as how frequently those things will populate. Same thing with roadblocks. So you're not going to put roadblocks in the AI commander, which would only be for asymmetric, but you can do it in here. So, what the hell? We'll make all the roadblocks. So that's done. Now we'll turn on debugging for kicks. All right, but they need an AI commander, right? So drop them up there. Oh, we're going to occupy it. That's right. Did I turn on debugging? I do it on this one too. Okay. So what we've done is we've created placement of units. They have commanders. But they're not going to do anything yet. In theory, if I did it right. Which I think I did. Oh shit. So clearly I made a mistake somewhere since a bunch of CSAT guys spawned there. So let's figure out what the mistake was. I bet I didn't put... Yep. Got to give it a faction. If you do not include your faction in a placement marker, it was going to default to CSAT. Let's try it again. All right, and you see in the bottom left there, 0 objectives for the OpCom. That's fine. Oh, look, there's our NATO troops.
Contact! Man!
I hear something driving around. So, let's see. Perfect. See, there's units that spawned out here. There's even a boat out there. Okay, so everything's working the way it should. Now, what do we want these units to do? Well, I want the troops at Camp Rogaine to attack the village. How do we do that? Well, first, we need to tell the CSAT AI commander that there are objectives here and that needs to defend them. So we're going to sync this placement module to our AI commander. our CSAT AI commander. So if the scouts, if the placement markers are scouts searching out objectives, the syncing is the radio call to tell the commander what the objectives are and where they are, right? So right now, the only AI commander who has objectives is our OP4, our CSAT AI commander. And we've said, look at this marker and the objectives in it. So now when we go back in, it's going to know, great, I have objectives here. I have to hold those objectives. Done. Now, this is the fourth place where people get really screwed up, I think. You don't have to sync this placement module to the CSAT commander. Why? Because we don't need the CSAT commander to attack the camp. Let's say it one more time. We don't need the CSAT forces to attack the camp. We want the camp to attack the CSAT guys. So they don't need to see these objectives. Because if they see these objectives, they're going to allocate units to attack. So we don't need that. So really, this marker, which is going to place our NATO units, doesn't have to do anything. Doesn't have to sync anywhere. Right? Because these guys don't have to defend the objective because they're going to clear out. Now, if you wanted them to, you would do the same thing. Now you have two units defending. But they're not going to attack each other. Right? But I don't care about defending Camp Rogaine right now. So I'm going to sync the CSAT objective, right? Our TAOR, where all our CSAT, our OP4 guys are. I'm going to sync that only to the NATO commander and to the CSAT commander. So I've said, hey, spawn all these units here at Camp Rogaine with this marker. Don't worry about the objectives. But there are objectives here, and you need to see them. So now both sides' AI commanders are going to see the objectives here. These guys are already here, so they're going to defend it. These guys are here, so they're going to attack it. In theory, if I did it right. Make sure all these are on so we can see what's going on. Perfect. I'm glad we decided to spawn a supply box in there. So now, yeah, perfect. Let's turn this on. So what is this telling us? So you can see here, oh, it is still going to hold some units there. Perfect. So these units are already moving toward that objective, but these guys aren't doing anything. They're not moving over here because there's nothing over here for them to do because they don't know there's objectives here. So if I jump into Zeus real quick, should be able to see the actual, yep, there they go. What's that? Oh, Hunter. Whoops. So let's turn on our teleport. See, the units are spawning in. And we're still getting performance. We don't really have that many units in this world anyway. Oh, there they go, setting up their roadblocks. Ah, something exploded. Guessing that was a spawn explosion. So one of the quirky things with ALiVE is sometimes it gets a little confused about where it wants to spawn things. Like that. And when it tries to spawn too many vehicles in one place at one time, well, anyone who's played ArmA for more than 5 minutes knows that there's a very explosive, catapulting result that occurs. So it's really entertaining at the beginning of a scenario when you first load up a map to watch tanks and T-72s and BMPs go rocketing through the sky and the rockets red glare. It is kind of annoying though. So we're just gonna crank up the speed here a teeny tiny bit and get into contact a teeny tiny bit faster. But you can see the units over here are still virtualized. They're patrolling. Some stuff blew up down here. And that'll also happen with, if you manually put down an HQ. Checkpoints will do it sometimes, depending on where they're dropped in by the AI.
Contact rifleman.
Aha. And you can also see down here this green flag that's appeared at Camp Rogaine. That's our HQ, and that only populates if you've got debugging on. Is that what that is? What class did I get? Assistant Gunner. Officially the most useless. Yeah, so that explosion was caused by a checkpoint spawning in an odd location. Probably had a vehicle spawn with it. Can you guys get in a gunfight already, for the love of God? Okay, right down the hill. So these guys are going to go down, gonna start engaging.
Static MG, 300
You can
meters.
see on the bottom left, sending QRF. So the AI will recognize when it's in contact, and it'll start back up. And that's that.
We got a man down.
Alright, so what else can we do? Well, now let's say that we want let's change this to invasion, so they actually attack. So we're going to sync our Camp Rogaine placement module to the CSAT commander. So now the CSAT commander is going to see all the objectives in here, and it's going to go, oh, there's stuff for me to attack. And we're also going to attach it to our commander, to the NATO commander, and I'm going to select a slightly better class real quick for the inevitable gunfight. So now these guys, both sides, are going to see each other's objectives, and they're going to both attack and defend them.
Form column. At ease. Move right.
Turn our debugging on. So we can see here, I have all the debugging on. You can see it's an east objective, and the blue just underneath it, it's also a west objective. Same for over here. There's an east and west objective. So these guys are moving. So this is the 125% movement speed. Well, maybe it is. Yeah, they're moving pretty quick. Maybe we can go even faster. Haha. So it sees these units down here. He's probably going to get schwacked by whatever this is that looks like tanks. Let's go see, because we can drop in and see exactly what's going on. Yeah, that'll happen sometimes too. So I think these are just infantry groups. See if I can hit him from here. Oh, I probably can. Is that another? Yeah, it's another. Okay. Is he stuck? Opcom sending QRF. Super. Yeah, that didn't go well. So that's the basics, the basics of how to set up a general battle in ALiVE. And if you really want to have fun with it, you can crank it up to like 400. Why not? See how bad it slows down then.
Form column. At ease.
See how many units we got. Oh yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Contact, rifleman.
Not too bad actually. That's still about 40-50 frames. So all these units are going to start fighting, and they'll continue to until they're all dead. Or you set endgame settings, objective triggers, endgame triggers. There they go. I'm sorry, God. Let's see how many units are actually spawned in. 50 and 50. Yeah. So you can see, you know, we set the force size as 400 for each side, and on the bottom left you can see the profile count. It's 45 op 4, 49 blue 4. This is a pretty simple string command. I don't. You know, it's on the ALiVE wiki, the script snippets, and I'll post it in the comments also. So you can copy this, throw it in the debug console, and it's good if you're making missions because you can see how many profiles ALiVE is running. And again, you kind of have to juxtapose that with.
75 meters. Front. Solid copy.
So these units are in a fight right now.
Covering fire. Cover me. Waiting. Go. Go. Okay, Hunter, go. Copy.
I know, that's just good old-fashioned gunfire. That's fine.
Flight clear. 75 meters. Right. 3. 4 meters.
So that's going to be your ambient patrolling. These guys just without a care in the world. Little AI boosters like BCOM or ASR or LAMs. Really anything will really help boost this up quite a bit. These guys would not just be walking around while they got troops in contact behind them. So that's it. So now you know the basics of how to create your very own ALiVE scenario. You understand TAORs, when you should use them, how you should use them, what needs to be synced to create a basic engagement. And I'll be doing more of these soon. So I'm supposed to say, please like and subscribe. So please like and subscribe. And then you can get all of these delicious ALiVE and I don't know, whatever else I come up with, videos direct to your YouTube feed. Okay, thanks. Bye.